Hello there, welcome to Encore on France 24. Our studio guest today hails from a Pakistani political dynasty. Now Fatima Bhutto is offering us a first-person fictional view of life in Pakistan's volatile tribal zones in her first novel, The Shadow of the Crescent Moon. She's here to see us as the book is published in French. Hi Fatima, very nice to meet you.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming to see us. Now, this is your first novel, as I just mentioned, recounts one day and some of the background of the lives of one family in Pakistan's tribal zone, bordering Afghanistan, I should say. There are people trying to escape, betrayals, fights, losses. I thought it would be nice if we could start with you reading us a little excerpt that I've picked out. It sort of paints a picture of the atmosphere in this town, with a young junior professor who's dared to speak out against the state. And his name is Balach.
Balach, exactly. He took out a cigarette as he walked and noticed the green Pajero behind him only as he cocked his head to light it against the wind. But there were other cars on the road. Balach exhaled a plume of smoke and carried on walking. 20 seconds later, the green Pajero stopped. A man wearing a pair of finely creased trousers leaped from the back seat and grabbed the junior professor, forcing him to stumble and lose his footing as he was thrown into the Pajero's spacious trunk. People saw what was happening. Men driving in different directions thought they had witnessed a man being bundled into an official-looking car. Children begging on street corners knew what they saw, but pretended that they too had not understood the physics of a man's illegal capture. And so the street was unchanged. Life would be easier for those who had seen nothing.
Quite an unbelievable scene, I think, to be described there, and based on things that do happen in real life.
Absolutely. We've seen thousands of disappearances, illegal disappearances of Pakistanis since the war on terror, and we've seen them go really unresolved. There hasn't been justice for any of those families in these 13 years.
And in the book, I personally found it very interesting. It starts with a family sort of sitting around having breakfast, that kind of thing. And I thought, well, really, I've never thought about people in Pakistan's tribal zones having breakfast, reading the newspaper, doing normal things, because those kinds of events always overshadow everything. What's your view of life in these tribal zones, and how did you go about researching that?
Well, it's just as you said, we tend to look at people now not as people. We've dehumanized them into headlines, into sound bites and little news ticker tape. And when we read headlines like 12 killed in attack and drone strike, we never really stop to wonder, what is life like for the families of those 12? How do young people survive this constant violence and fear? And that's really why I wanted to set the book where I did. I traveled a lot around Pakistan's northern areas, and I have always traveled there since a young age. But the last 7-10 years, it's been very difficult, and these places of real beauty and wonder in Pakistan have become cities under siege.
And currently there are negotiations underway with the Taliban about ending the insurgency. Do you feel optimistic about that?
I don't think anyone feels optimistic about the Pakistani state and the way in which it's presenting itself right now at all.
Okay, well, you personally have a lot of experience of the Pakistani state politics. We have to talk about your family background, I think. Your grandfather was Prime Minister, your father was a very prominent politician, and your aunt, of course, very famously Pakistan's first female Prime Minister, Benazir Bhutto. It's very well known that all of them died violent deaths, and you yourself grew up in exile, partly. Why did you return to live in Pakistan? You live in Karachi now, right?
Yes, I think, those of us young people who live there in Pakistan is a country of young people. 2/3 of the 180 million Pakistanis are under the age of 30. I think we stay there because Pakistan is a country of promise. It's a country that is very young and has a long way to go, I think, before we resign it to a place without hope. So we stay because of family, because of friends, because of the feeling that this is somewhere that can be better, it can be more just.
And with those thoughts in mind, have you ever considered going into politics yourself?
No, I can tell you that I've never wanted a career in politics. My writing and certainly my novel is very political, but I think there's many ways to engage. One doesn't have to
necessarily take
in
that
government.
path.
No, absolutely not.
Well, in your book, the women emerge as the quietly vital characters.
Yeah.
And in the real world, there do seem to be lots of extremes for women in Pakistan, where we have, for example, Malala Yousufzai in her campaigning, the Taliban recently claiming to have 500 female suicide bombers, your aunt becoming prime minister, such different situations. Let's take a little listen to what Malala Yousufzai has had to say.
I believe in the power of the voice of women. And then I believe that when we work together, then it's really easy for us to achieve our goal. When I was in Swat, only few of us were speaking, but still our voice had an impact. And now, not only I, but millions of girls are raising their voice and they are speaking.
There we are, Malala Yousufzai speaking out there. You raising your voice as well as a Pakistani woman in a very different situation. But how do you see the role of women evolving in Pakistani society?
Well, Pakistani women are extraordinary. They're extraordinary because they have almost zero protection in front of the law. You mentioned the Taliban earlier, but actually the Pakistani state for the last 30 years has had the most barbaric laws against women in place, federal laws. So women face a lot of turbulence from every quarters in Pakistan, but yet they resist and they struggle and they survive. And they do so with a very firm commitment to the principles of non-violence, with a connectedness to their community and to the many women around them. And they're sources of real courage and inspiration, not just for us Pakistanis, but I think for the world. For some reason, though, the image one usually sees of Pakistani women is a very singular vision. It's a vision of a oppressed, quiet, submissive person. And I tell you, any Pakistani you'll ever meet will confirm that those don't actually exist in Pakistan.
I suppose maybe that's partly because they don't have the same place in public life that women in the West tend to be able to have.
Well, in their communities, certainly they have an ability to express themselves, an ability to fight. And you have to fight as a woman to survive. Every day is a battle. But they don't have any voice, neither given to them by the Pakistani media or from the international media. So you see glimpses of it outside Pakistan. But when you live there, it's really present everywhere.
That's good to know. Well, I have to say, just speaking about Pakistan more in general, when we were preparing the programme today, we had quite a lot of trouble finding neutral, generic images, pictures of Pakistan. And we have learned of a bombing in Karachi earlier today. It does seem that Pakistan only seems to make the news in the West when it's linked to violence or extremism or politics. How does that make you feel?
Well, it's very unfair, really, to take a country of 180 million people, of thousands of years of heritage, and to reduce it to 2 words or to 2 images. Which is not to say that Pakistan is not going through a deep problem at the moment. It's facing tremendous corruption, really extreme violence, and an irresponsible and negligent state. But there are people there who are just like people everywhere.
OK, well, we can move on to a bit more of a hopeful and more light topic now, I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear. We can talk about a very particular form of Pakistani art, which I personally really love. We're talking about brightly painted trucks and lorries, which are a very vibrant addition to the country's highways for anyone that's ever visited. Some of the artists, though, fear that as NATO winds down its mission in Afghanistan and related local industry quietens, there will be less demand for their skills. Mark Thompson has this report.
Pakistan's painted trucks have become a flamboyant feature of the country's roads. Like his father before him, Haider is a truck artist. For more than 2 decades, he's been designing these vehicles from his workshop in Karachi.
Some people like having faces on their trucks, like folk singer Tola, cricketer Imran Khan, or Benazir Bhutto, for example.
They may have become a part of Pakistan's landscape, but the artistic quality of these trucks has long gone unrecognized. Slowly, that is beginning to change.
In the past, people didn't really know about us, and then tourists started calling it truck art. Then, when the people of Pakistan went abroad, they realized how big it was. Before, we weren't welcomed by the art schools, but now people call us and congratulate us.
And they don't just catch the eye. These trucks have also caught the interest of the business world. Some companies are ready to spend several $1,000s to turn an old rundown vehicle like this into something special.
People like beautiful things. There is a charm in the beauty of it all. People love it.
Hussein's new look truck should be on the road within a few weeks, but the future for his company is less certain. The haulage business is expected to drop off next year when NATO withdraws its remaining troops from neighbouring Afghanistan.
We won't be without work, but there'll definitely be less money coming in. The expenses will remain the same, but there will be a shortfall in demand for big vehicles and containers.
The orders may be drying up for 2014, but Pakistan's painted trucks are still likely to be a colourful feature of the country's roads for many years to come.
Very colourful and pretty indeed. Fatima, while you're here in Paris, of course, a very artistic city, do you think you'll be picking up some creative inspiration?
Oh, I don't think you can come to Paris and not.
That's
Every moment
true.
in Paris is a creative experience.
Well, I hope you get some time to have a look around the museums and things while you're here. Let's just give the viewers a quick reminder that Fatima's book, The Shadow of the Crescent Moon, is already out in English, now out in French under the title Les Lunes de Mir Ali, and it's published by Les Escales. So thanks very much, Fatima, for coming in to see us. Do enjoy your stay here.
I will.
And thanks as well to our viewers for watching. We do hope you've enjoyed the show. Remember, you can keep in touch with us on our social networks or with me on Twitter at @ACatInParis. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye for now.